Good morning. Who do we have at the jail from the PDs this morning? You're on mute, so I can't hear you. Hi, Tatiana.
Hello, Judge. I'm just here in supervisory capacity.
Okay,
Good
and
to see you.
My name is Samuel Hill,
Oh.
with the PD's office.
you were here yesterday or Monday.
Monday, yes.
Good morning, Judge Jail here.
Hi, Jail. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing this morning, ma'am?
Doing great, thank you.
Just so that you're aware, Your Honor, Mr. Neighbor decided that he didn't want to come to court as well this morning. And Mr. Gaines, I'm still waiting for him to come down. I want to see if we can get him right about where the felonies start.
Sure.
Okay, I'll bring Mr. Bracamonte in then.
Okay, thank you.
One more.
Okay, that's funny. All right, Mr. Bracamonte, tell me your full name. All right, you are here this morning for your initial appearance on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, discharging a firearm within city limits, endangerment, and being a prohibited possessor as a result of your juvenile status and being on probation. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. Looks like you are on juvenile probation and they have put a hold on you. So regardless of what we do on the new charges today, you are going to be held on that matter. I did not see a recommendation from the state on this case. Mr. Poston, do you have a recommendation?
I do, Your Honor. Forgive me. I was initially told that it was Judge Marner that was going to be appearing this morning. I shall send it to you presently. That said, Your Honor, notwithstanding the fact that he has this hold and is a prohibited possessor, it is alleged that that during the course of a drug deal gone bad, the defendant and a 17-year-old accomplice met the seller, his girlfriend, and their 7-month-old infant. A fight ensued, and during the course of this, the defendant shot the dealer and then again shot at the vehicle when they, specifically the dealer, the girlfriend, and the infant, fled. $250,000, Your Honor. This person is an incredible risk to the community.
Mr. Hill.
Your Honor, $250,000 seems a bit high. We're gonna ask for a nominal bond here.
I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $100,000 cash or secured at this time. If you do post that bond, Mr. Bracamonte, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you get released to pretrial services, you're to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you are not allowed to have any firearms. You're not allowed to have any contact with the victims in this case or go near the incident location. Conditions of release in the event that you post bond.
Yes, ma'am.
Your next hearing date is a preliminary hearing on December 23rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future hearings. If you remain in custody, you'll be transported for your next hearing. But if you do post bond or you are released, it's your responsibility to stay in touch with your attorney to make sure you appear or a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
You are all done for today.
Hold on. Let's get a phone back up. All right. As long as go around the tape, that's the cash. Either have to do this.
Give me just one moment, ma'am.
Okay. Sarah Lopez.
All right, tell me your full name.
Sarah Ann Lopez.
Ms. Lopez, you were here on a few different matters this morning. You have a warrant out of Pima County Justice Court for false reporting. That was from an incident in March of this year. The bond amount on that warrant is $100. And then you are also here on some city court matters. City court matters are also warrants involving disorderly conduct, 3 counts, false reporting, 3 counts on multiple occasions. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I have an address for you on South Summit Peak Place. Is that still a good address for you?
Yes.
The city court warrants issued in September of this year. So, Ms. Lopez, I have a couple of options this morning. We can hold you in custody, or I can set a bond and you can post it if you want to be released. Or I can release you on your own recognizance, but you have to go to court on all of these matters. They are not going to go away. And
Yes, I understand.
are you going to show up if I give you court dates?
Yes, I remind my mom.
Okay, when you get released from the jail today, you're going to get paperwork that will have all the information you need for your court hearings. Please make sure that you get that paperwork and take it with you so you don't miss your court dates. All right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So I will release you on your promise to appear. Your next hearing in Justice Court is going to be January 8th at 2:30 in the afternoon. You do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, they will issue a warrant for your arrest. I'm going to give you one more shot to show up at City Court as well. So I will release you on that case. Your next hearing at Tucson City Court is January 13th at 2:30 in the afternoon, and that's going to be in front of Judge Verena. You are not to have any contact with the victims of the disorderly conducts and do not go back to the incident locations. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes.
And do you understand that if you fail to appear on January 13th, they're going to issue another warrant for your arrest?
Yes.
And the likelihood is the next judge is not going to let you out, Ms. Lopez. So make sure you show up to court, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Well done.
You're done.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice.
Do I just go out there or do?
Yeah, back.
Okay.
It sound like it's. Have a seat.
All right, sir, tell me your full name.
It's Justin Edwards Sarantides.
Sarantides, is that how you pronounce it?
That's the American way. Sarantides is a Greek way.
Sarantides, okay.
There you go.
You are here today on charges of domestic violence, disorderly conduct. There are 2 counts. These are misdemeanors. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. It looks like the victims who are your parents are present here today. They are on teams. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I will give you an opportunity here in just a minute to provide input if that's what you would like to do on this case. We're here to talk about conditions of release, not the circumstances of the offense here today. I have had an opportunity to review information that was provided by pretrial services. It does look like Mr. and Mrs. Sarantides that you did tell pretrial services that you do not object to his release. However, you do not want him to return to your home and don't want contact at this time. Is that still your position?
Right.
Okay, is there anything else you would like to tell me today? about conditions of release?
No, just to avoid contact because of all his situations.
Okay, all right. So Mr. Sedenthitis, you will be released today. I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to release you on your promise to appear, but you're going to have to establish an alternative address. And the court's order is that you not have any contact with your parents. You can't.
No, I understand. To get my car and my dog and such, what would I do about that?
So what I will do is check a box on your appearance order that allows you to return one time with police. Do not go to the house and wait there. When you get released later today, you'll get a copy of this appearance order with your release conditions. And the box will be checked. You need to go to a nearby police station or call the police and let them know that you need to go to an address to collect your belongings for a domestic violence offense. Do not go and sit outside your parents' house waiting for the police to get there. You need to be at a nearby Circle K, somewhere else that is away from their residence until the police meet you and you go together to get your things.
Okay. All right. And as far as if I wanted to just put charges up for either of them, would I speak to you about that, or would I do that with the police? Okay. How would we?
That's not information that I can provide to you. So
Oh, I don't know
today,
if it was a separate thing or what. I'm sorry, I'm not used to this at all.
so today is just about your conditions of release. It's not about
Okay,
the
gotcha.
offenses that occurred.
That's all. Okay, no problem.
So you're going to be released your next hearing. So those are all the conditions of release that you have. Your next hearing date is going to be January 10th, 2025 at 10:30. That's going to be at Pima County Justice Court. You do need to make sure that you appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, I'll be there for sure.
Okay. And then again, make sure no contact with your parents. That means no texting, no phone calls, no anything at all. All right?
And then what about the thing with the passport thing or whatever? I can do that right when I get out.
Yeah, you just need to make sure that the police are with you to go get your belongings. Mr. and Mrs. Vanditis, do you understand all of that? Do you have any questions?
We understand. The only thing we need notice that he's coming because I'm at work. My wife is at work. It's not, so that we don't have to stay here all day. I mean,
No, you don't have to. No one is expecting you to do anything to change your lives or what you need to do.
Okay.
You go about your own business and it will be up to law enforcement to contact you and let you know, or they usually let you know, hey, we want to come over and do this. They don't usually just show up. But if they show up and you're not home, he's not going to be allowed to go into the residence without you guys there.
thank you very much.
So that's
And as you said, January 10th.
no, I cleared the screen. I think it was January. Yes, January 10th at 10:30, and that'll be at Pima County Justice Court. And if you have any questions, you can contact the Pima County Attorney's Office Victim Services Division, and they'll be able to assist you since you're both listed as victims in this matter. All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are all done. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Not a victim. Tell me your full name.
Isabel Renee Barrett.
Give me just one moment, Miss Barrett. All right, you are here today for your initial appearance. We're going to talk about conditions of release for a domestic violence criminal damage charge. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This is also the time for your arraignment on this matter. I will enter a not guilty plea on your behalf. You are presumed innocent. I've had a chance to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. It looks like your boyfriend is the victim in this case. And it looks like he is fine with continuing to have contact with you. So If you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future, I will release you on that promise to appear today. Can you do that, Ms. Barrett?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. So I'm going to release you on your promise to appear. Your next hearing date is going to be January 14th, 2025 at 1:30 in the afternoon, and that will be in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you'll get a copy of your conditions of release. That will have the date and time and also the address for Tucson City Court so that you can appear. Do you understand all the conditions of release that I have imposed today?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you fail to appear at that hearing on January 14th, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. They could also go forward in your absence if you don't appear, and that includes setting a trial in your absence. If you're convicted at that trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you're also going to lose your right to an appeal. Do you understand all those consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're all done.
Thank you.
I'm going away. Ms. Bowser?
Hello,
Hi, tell me your full name.
Jesse James Bowser.
Mr. Bowser, you are here today for an initial appearance and an arraignment on charges of criminal damage and disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You are presumed innocent. I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. If I release you today on this matter, you have to promise to show up at Tucson City Court at a date that I give you. Will you do that?
What is the date, ma'am?
Whatever date I give you.
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing is you are not going to be allowed to have any contact with Miss Valenzuela. She
Who
is
is that?
Mina Valenzuela. She's the victim in this case and your girlfriend.
All right.
Do you have somewhere else that you can live? Because you are not going to be allowed to return back to that residence with her.
No, I can, yeah.
You can find a place to stay?
Yeah.
All right. I am going to release you, Mr. Bowser. Your next court date is going to be January 16th, 2025 at 9:30 in the morning. Oh, sorry, that's January 14th at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Your Honor, am I gonna have this written down somewhere else or no?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, so January 14th at 1:30 in the afternoon, that's going to be in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. Your additional conditions: commit no acts of domestic violence. You're not allowed to have any contact with the victim in this case, Miss Valenzuela. Do not go to her residence or where she is working. Do you need to return to the residence to collect some of your items?
Kind of, but not really.
Okay, because I can check a box on the form that allows you to return one to law enforcement so that you can get any belongings. I'll check that box. You can decide later if you want to use that. Okay, but if you go back to collect your things, you must go with law enforcement. Call them, go to a nearby police station, and take a copy of the conditions of release order that you'll get when you get released today that has the date and time as well.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're all, make sure that if you don't appear, I do need to tell you they could issue a warrant for your arrest. If you don't go to that January 14th date, they could also go forward in your absence. That includes setting a trial in your absence. And if you're convicted and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you'll lose your right to appeal that conviction. Do you understand all of that as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're all done, Mr. Bowser.
Thank you, ma'am.
Please.
Okay, tell me your full name.
Exnar Daniel Caballero Sanchez.
Mr. Caballero Sanchez, you are here today for an initial appearance. We're also going to do an arraignment on domestic violence charges of assault, disorderly conduct, and criminal damage. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You are presumed innocent. We're going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf this morning. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Looks like they have had the opportunity to talk with the victim in this matter, who's your spouse, Miss Sanchez. It looks like she is welcoming further contact with you at this time. So I'm not going to limit contact, but you are not going to be allowed to commit any further acts of domestic violence if I release you today. Will you promise to do that?
I do.
I am going to release you on your promise to appear at a future hearing. Will you show up at a court date that I'm about to give you?
Well,
That court date is going to be January 14th, 2025 at 1:30 in the afternoon, and that is going to be in front of Judge Million at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you're going to get a copy of the conditions of release that's going to have that court date on it, along with the address for Tucson City Court and where you need to appear. If you fail to appear at that court date, a warrant could issue for your arrest. They could also go forward in your absence, and that includes setting a trial. If you're convicted at that trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you'll also lose your right to an appeal. Do you understand all those consequences if you fail to appear for your hearing?
I do.
You're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Kupis. Judge Miller, long time no see. Yeah, you don't look too good today. How you doing?
Not too good.
Yeah. All right. You're here, Mr. Kupis, today on a charge of drug paraphernalia out of Tucson City Court. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have a probation hold as well, obviously from drug court and failing to appear and taking off on that case. So you're going to have a hearing in Pima County Superior Court on that matter later this week. You're going to see Judge Hampson, not me, and then we'll make some decisions about whether or not you'll get to stay in drug court. So today, this morning, all we're talking about is the drug paraphernalia misdemeanor charge. Do you understand all of that? I need you to answer out loud, Mr. Kupis.
Yes,
Okay. Who is your probation officer? Is it Miss Brown?
I remember Desiree was my original probation officer, but then she
Yeah.
retired.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it should be Ana Mesqua. Okay. She probably will be out to talk with you as well. All right. On this charge, I'm going to release you on the city court case. What that means is we're going to have a non-transport review hearing on January 13th, 2025 at 2:30. By then, I would imagine the probation matter will be resolved, but if you're still in custody on that date, then you may be appearing via video at city court. If you get released, though, you do need to make sure you show up for that January 13th hearing. If you fail to appear on that date, warrants could issue for your arrest in that case. They could also go forward in your absence, and that includes setting a trial at Tucson City Court on this charge. If you get convicted on that charge and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to an appeal. Do you understand all those consequences if you fail to appear on your city court case?
yes.
All right. No, because I'm releasing him. So no, I'm not going to appoint the PD. We're just going to do a non-transport. So, sorry, Mr. Kupis, the court clerk was asking me a question. So, you're all done on this case for today. Like I said, even though I've released you here, you're going to stay in custody until you get a chance to see Judge Hampson. I think it's later this week or maybe early next week on the warrant for your probation matter.
Yeah.
All right, you're all done. You told us that it was discretionary when we hold them.
Rodriguez.
Well, they haven't told me that yet, so. So until we get some update on that. Hi there, tell me your full name.
Destiny Rodriguez.
Ms. Rodriguez, you are here today on a misdemeanor charge involving disorderly conduct. It is a domestic violence offense. This is the time for your initial appearance where we're setting conditions of release. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services to the court. It looks like the roommate, Mr. Penny, is the victim in this case. You are not welcome to return there at this time. If I release you today, will you promise to show up at a future court date that I give you? And will you also promise to find somewhere else to live? You can't go back to the same
Yes.
residence. Okay. Do you have a place you can go?
Yes.
I'm going to release you today on your promise to appear. This is also your time for the arraignment on these charges, so I'm going to enter a not guilty plea on your behalf. You are presumed innocent. Your hearing is going to be January 13th, 2025 at 10 a.m. in front of Judge Hale at Tucson City Court. You are not allowed to have any contact with your roommate, Mr. Penny. Do you need to return to that location to gather any belongings? All right, I am going to check a box on your conditions of release form that says you can return one time with law enforcement to collect the belongings that you need. So you just need to either call law enforcement or take the order that you'll get today when you get released to a nearby police station so that they can take you to the location to get whatever you need. Do not go there without them. Do you understand, Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. If you fail to appear at that hearing on January 13th at 10 in the morning, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. They could also go forward in your absence, and that includes setting a trial in your absence. If you're convicted and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand all the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're all done for today.
Okay, thank you.
Can we?
Morning,
Hi, tell me your full name.
Henry Michael T. Camp.
All right, Mr. T. Kemp, you are here this morning on a charge of assault. It is a misdemeanor. It is a domestic violence offense. We're going to talk about your conditions of release today. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This is also your time for an arraignment on these charges. You are presumed innocent, and I'll enter a not guilty plea on your behalf. Looks like the victim in this case is a former partner of yours, Isabella Secchi.
Sachi.
Betsy, okay. And it looks like pretrial services was unable to have contact with her to let me know about whether or not the two of you are going to continue to have contact. So what that means for you today is I can release you if you promise to appear at a court date that I give you in the future. Will you do that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you are also going to have a no contact order today with Miss Secchi. You are not going to be allowed to go anywhere near her. Do you have a place that you can live that is not with her?
She's the one who came to my house, Your Honor. I have my own house. I have my own roommates. I'd prefer if maybe that I was informed that officers did reach out to her and did contact her, and I'd appreciate if she didn't come to my place of residence because she's the one.
Okay.
I do agree to that. I do have a place I can stay that's not with her.
Perfect. Okay. So I don't want to talk about the offenses today. It sounds like we're in agreement that you should not have any contact with her. I don't have any authority over her because she's not the person listed as the one committing the offense today. So the order is with you. So if she tries to contact you, you can tell her you're under court order to not have any contact and you just need to stay away from her.
All right, so you said the police did not make contact with her because I was informed that they did. And I don't know
I'm
if you can
not,
see my
hang on. I'm not talking about police, pretrial services. So they're an arm of the court. That's not the police department. The police department did talk with her, but when I'm considering conditions of release, oftentimes the arm of the court through pretrial services tries to contact victims of the offenses so that we can find out their position on conditions of release. They have a right to have input in Arizona. So that's the reason.
For sure. And is there a reason that she wasn't arrested? I mean, as you can see, I was clearly struck in the face, and
Mr.
I don't understand.
Yeah, now is not the time for us to talk about all of these, or what actually occurred. So I do see that you have a black eye, but the time to talk about that is not now. All we're doing right now is setting your conditions of release, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to release you on your promise to appear at a future court date. Your next court date is going to be January 14th, 2025 at 1:30 in the afternoon. And that is going to be in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. Your conditions of release will state that you can't commit any further acts of domestic violence and don't have any contact with Ms. Secchi.
Just today.
Do you understand?
I do, just no contact today. Because she's definitely gonna reach out to me. I can already.
You're not allowed to have any contact with her. So
whatsoever or only today.
Not any, no, you are not allowed to have any contact with her unless some judge in the future changes that. So no contact, no text messages, no social media, no in-person contact, no phone calls, no nothing. So if she tries to reach out to you, your only response is, I'm under a court order to stay away from you. That's it. And then don't have any more contact with her. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Do you understand all of the conditions that I gave you today?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Your next hearing, that January 14th date at 1:30. If you don't show up at that hearing, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. They could also go forward with that hearing in your absence, and they could set a trial in your absence. If you're convicted at that trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you're going to lose your right to an appeal of that conviction. Do you understand all those consequences if you fail to appear?
Yeah.
All right, you are all done for today.
I have a question about what time will I be released? Because I have finals today.
Well, it usually takes 2 to 4 hours before you get released. So that's kind of average with the jail. So that's going to be up to them. So sometime in the next 2 to 4 hours, you should be released.
Okay, and is there any way I can go about getting my medication that I'm required to take every day? I'd already asked officers, but they completely ignore me. I'm prescribed Klonopin, which is a benzodiazepine, and it's not a medication you can just stop taking. Otherwise, you experience very serious withdrawals. And I need my medication. So and the officers I already asked for medical attention. They laughed at me. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Klonopin is, but it's basically Xanax, and I'm prescribed that, and it's not something you could just cold turkey and stop. I've been taking it every day, and it's going to make my body physically shut down.
Okay. So you're going to be released in 2 to 4 hours. So you will be able to take your dose for today when you get released. The jail is present and they heard everything that you just told me, right, jail?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hey, tell me your full name.
It's Michael Tatum.
Mr. Tatum, you were here today on charges of criminal trespass, shoplifting, and interfering with a judicial proceeding, failing to comply with a court order. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You're also here for an arraignment on these charges, so I will enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You are presumed innocent. So, Mr. Tatum, I see that you have a general delivery address. Are those still your circumstances?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to talk about the transition center in a minute. If I release you today, you have to promise 2 things. 1, go to city court at the date that I give you. Will you do that?
Yes.
And the other thing is you cannot go back to any Speedway gas stations. You have to stay away from those places. Will you do that?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to release you today, Mr. Tatum, on your promise to appear. Your next hearing is going to be December 20th, 2024 at 2:00 in the afternoon. And that's going to be in front of Judge Blue. Have you seen Judge Blue before?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we're going to set that hearing in front of him. So you're going to have to get to Tucson City Court on that date. You're not allowed to go back to the incident locations. Don't go anywhere near any Speedway stores.
Okay.
Just let me write out some paperwork. Give me just a second. When you get released later today, they're going to give you a copy of your paperwork. Hold on to that piece of paper because it's going to have your court date and time on it, and also the conditions of release that we talked about. Okay?
Okay.
If you fail to appear on that December 20th date at 2:00, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. They could also go forward in your absence with that hearing, and they could set other hearings, including a trial. If you're convicted at trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to appeal any conviction. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear, Mr. Tatum?
Yes.
Okay. When you get released later today, have you ever been to the transition center that's right there at the jail?
Transition center? Where is that?
So there's a trailer kind of right off to the jail property. When you get released, ask them to direct you. They're open during the day, and if you go in there, they may be able to assist you with housing services, and they also provide other services as well, substance abuse, mental health, other services with community partners. So I would encourage you to go by there today to see if there's something they can do to help you out. All right?
Okay.
All right. You're all
Is it across the street or next door?
I think it's next door. Jail, it's right on the same side as the jail buildings, right? Okay. When you get ready to get all checked out, Mr. Tatum, just have someone at the jail point it out for you so you can go buy that trailer. There'll be someone there that can help you, okay? All right, you're all done for today. Hi, tell me your full name.
Okay, Salazar.
Mr. Salazar, you are here today on a few different matters. You're here on 2 counts of child abuse and also some matters out of Tucson City Court. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. As to the felony matters, you do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the legal defender's office to represent you when you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. We're talking about your conditions of release on the felony charges. We'll talk about your city court matters in just a few minutes. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to conditions of release. Looks like the state is recommending a $7,500 bond. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
It submits in the written record, Your Honor.
Mr. Hill?
Your Honor, Mr. Salazar here doesn't have any felony priors. He's got significant ties to the community. He's lived here for 23 years and he's employed as a plumber. So it doesn't seem like he's going to be a flight risk. And then that's all.
Mr. Salazar, I have an address for you on Calle Sierra. Is that a good address for you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If I release you today, you're gonna have to go to court at future dates that I give you. You gonna do that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I am going to release you to pretrial services on the felony matter. That means you must participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You are not allowed to have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. I don't know whether or not DCS is involved in your case yet, but to the extent that they are or will be, you're ordered to abide by any conditions that they impose. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Your next court date in the felony matter is going to be December 23rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're going to be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Because you're going to be out of custody, it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that that date changes. Do you understand all of that for your felony matter?
Yes, ma'am.
We do need to talk about your city court cases. It looks like it's a warrant for drug paraphernalia and prescription drug possession. Those are all misdemeanors. Looks like the warrant issued in September, it looks like the 19th, because you failed to appear for a hearing on September 18th of this year. So possess no alcohol or illegal drugs. Your next hearing in that case is going to be January 21st at 2:00 in the afternoon. That's going to be in front of Judge Cranshaw. You do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, they're going to issue more warrants for your arrest. You can't ignore these matters, Mr. Salazar. You have to show up to court to get them resolved. Okay?
Senator.
Oh, you're all done for today.
Okay, thank you. It's gonna be your next court. Okay. Thank you.
Unused executives. Yeah, that's hard.
Doing all right. How you doing? Is this your initial appearance? What's your name?
Andre Gaines.
Hang on. Hi, sir. Up here. Good morning.
Hi, Mel.
Hi.
Good morning. Hi.
Tell me your.
Hi.
Your-
I'm sorry, Mel. I
tell,
can't hear you.
tell me your full name.
Andre Maurice Gaines, Your Honor.
All right. Let me pull up your information, Mr. Gaines. Give me just 1 second.
Yes.
All right. So you are here today on a warrant out of Pima County Justice Court. Looks like for interfering with a judicial proceeding involving a domestic violence offense. I have an address for you on East 10th Street. Is that still a good address for you, Mr. Gaines?
Yes, Mel.
Okay.
I wasn't aware of the warrant.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hang on. You have the right to remain silent on this charge. Anything you say can and will be used against you. If I release you today and give you another court date, do you promise that you're going to show up?
I absolutely will.
Okay. So it looks like the hearing in this case was in September. And then December 3rd, you were ordered to appear, and that's when you failed to appear. So I am going to release you today, and you must appear in Pima County Justice Court on January 10th at 10:30 in the morning.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't show up at that date and time, they're going to issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand, Mr. Gaines?
Yes.
Okay, and that is just on this case. So this has to do with the warrant. It looks like you may also be being held on a felony matter. Is that the case?
I believe so. For for that, the warrant, whatever, I think I got 2 F6s
Okay.
for it.
So whatever you have going on for the felony matter, that's not what we're talking about today. So even though I have released you on this case, you may still be held in custody for whatever else is going on. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. And
Um,
abide by any previously ordered conditions of release that were set in that case before that warrant was issued on the domestic violence case. So if you were ordered not to have contact with the victim, don't have contact with the victim. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. You are all done.
Right.
Sure, go ahead.
Is there any kind of way I know your power is there, but my leg feel like it's about to fall off. I've been trying to get to the infirmary. I am in a lot like devastating pain and I can't get there. I really need somebody to look at my leg. It's really bad. I don't know what's wrong with it, but when I was in the back of the squad car yesterday, I told them it was bad, but on Sunday, I'm sorry. I was back in the squad car like for 4 hours with my hands cuffed behind me. And I told them that my legs and stuff wasn't feeling right. But and the other detective told him to let me go to the doctor or bring an ambulance to check me out. But he refused. He said I was okay. And he brought me here. But then the next day, I haven't been able to walk on it, move it. I'm in excruciating pain.
Okay, Mr. Gaines, everything that you just told me, the jail staff is listening to. Jail, did you hear everything that he said?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, so they will take care of it from here. Okay, Mr. Gaines?
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
You did not get one. Okay.
Revelation. Well,
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Luis Martin Alcata.
Mr. Alcantar, you are here today for an initial appearance on charges involving aggravated assault, deadly weapon, dangerous instrument, misconduct involving weapons. You also have a warrant out of Maricopa County for an aggravated assault. It does look like that's a class 6 felony from August of 2023. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Me on these felony matters, I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Looks like you are on probation and they have placed a hold on you. So regardless of what we do on these charges today, you're going to be held until you can be seen on the probation matters. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Mr. Poston, for whatever reason, I don't have a recommendation from the state on these charges. Do you want to be heard? Mr. Poston?
Yes, Your Honor, I hear you. One moment. Your Honor, Mr. Alcantar has been charged with firing a weapon at raising a weapon unprovoked at a person who was also at a location here in Tucson. He was found with an AR pistol in his possession, and surveillance shows that he brandished it at another person. This is an extremely dangerous situation. This person has demonstrated that he is a danger to society. $150,000, Your Honor. He is also a prohibited possessor.
Mr. Hill.
Your Honor, we just asked for a nominal bond in this matter.
Mr. Alcantar, I'm going to hold you on a $100,000 cash or secured bond today. If you are able to post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. For this case, if you're released to pretrial services, you're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you are not allowed to have any firearms. Do not have any contact with the victim. Don't return to the incident location. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your next hearing date is December 23rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. You also have the Maricopa County Superior Court warrant. There isn't a bond total on that. I'm going to impose a $1,000 cash or secure bond at this time on the Maricopa County matter. Because you're being held on other things here in Pima County, your probation matter and these new charges, we're going to set a review hearing for you on the Maricopa County case so that we make sure we keep track of that. For as long as you're here, Maricopa County won't likely come get you for those charges, and these can be reviewed, your conditions of release, at any time. But for now, there'll be a $1,000 bond. Your next review hearing for that case will be January 13th at 9 o'clock in the morning. So you'll do much like you're doing today. You'll appear in front of a judge just on the Maricopa County case so we can track what's happening in Pima County and see if those conditions need to be reviewed. Do you understand that, Mr. Alcantar?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You are all done for today.
It's gonna be next court date.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Good morning, David Lawrence Almanza.
Mr. Almanza, you are here on multiple felony matters here today. We also have Tucson City Court matters to discuss. And then there is a matter out of Bisbee Justice Court that we're going to have to discuss. On your felony matters, you're here for possession of narcotic drugs, possession of narcotic drug for sale. The second interim alleges the same: possession of a narcotic drug, possession of narcotic drug for sale, possession of drug paraphernalia. And again, the last one, possession of paraphernalia, possession of a dangerous drug, possession of a narcotic drug, and more possession of paraphernalia. So those are all your felony interim complaints that we're here to talk about today. You do have the right to remain silent on those charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation. They're asking for a $10,000 bond across all three of these felony cases and release to pretrial services if you're able to post that bond. That is the court's inclination. Mr. Poston, do you need to be heard any further?
Your Honor, to be accurate, we asked for 5,000 on the first one, this 10,000 consecutive, and 10,000 consecutive on the third case. We're looking at a grand total of 65 and 30s in two different batches. And we're also looking at yet more fentanyl. So in the case number ending 007, we're looking at 60 M30s and 1.242 grams of meth. In the next case, ending 180, Your Honor, we had 35 grams of M30s, which each pill is approximately 0.1 grams, so that's 300. And then we're looking at another 30 grams, again, about 300 pills. So we're looking at 600 pills, upwards of 600 pills and over 1 gram of meth. So we're looking for 25,000 across the board, Your Honor.
Mr. Hill.
Your Honor, when I'm reading this interim complaint, I'm not seeing that any of these pills were actually tested. So they might look like fentanyl pills, but they never were tested to be fentanyl pills. Furthermore, it is true that Mr. Almanza has prior felonies, but they're all greater than 10 years old in Colorado. I'm gonna ask that he either be released to pretrial services or we're seeking a nominal bond.
All right. And Mr. Hill, my experience is they do not test fentanyl pills because of the dangerousness of them. So that's not something that we typically see. Those are usually identified based on recognition and law enforcement training and experience. So there is probable cause for this offense. I am going to impose a bond of $10,000, cash or secured. If you can post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. You're going to be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You are not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms or weapons. That bond is going to be concurrent as to your 3 felony cases that are pending at this time. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yeah, I understand conditions of release, but I'm not understanding the amount of charges and where they came from.
So that's something you can talk to your attorney about. Today is just about setting your conditions of release. All right, so someone from the public defender's office will be in touch with you. Your next hearing is going to be December 23rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be expected to show up at all future hearings. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. If you're in custody, the jail will make sure to transport you for your next hearings. But if you bond out, you are going to need to make sure that you appear on your own and stay in contact with your attorney. Do you understand that those are the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yeah.
All right, I need to do some paperwork real quick on a couple of these cases, and then we're going to talk about your city court cases and also the Bisbee case. I already did it.
Reset for extension.
Okay, back here. Anderson.
All right, let's talk about your Bisbee case. So that is a warrant out of Bisbee Justice Court. It looks like they have a $300 bond total on that warrant for driving on a suspended license. I'm going to release you on that case, Mr. Almanzan, and we're going to set a court date out in February for that. So I'm releasing you on your promise to appear. Your next court date in Bisbee Justice Court is going to be February 4th at 11 o'clock in the morning. You are going to have to make it to that court date. If for any reason you're still in custody at that time, make sure you let your attorney know that that court date is out there so that they can get that adjusted for you. If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Don't drive without a valid license if you get released.
Okay.
Now we need to talk about your city court cases. Looks like you have 2 of those.
Gentlemen,
Those involve criminal trespass and drug paraphernalia, a couple counts. Looks like they issued a warrant for your arrest on that case. So I'm going to release you on your city court cases as well. And we're going to have what's called a non-transport review hearing for you on those matters. That's going to be January 21st at 9:30 in the morning. If you are still in custody, then you'll appear via video, much like you're doing today. If you get released, you are going to be expected to appear at Tucson City Court on January 21st at 9:30 in the morning. Do you understand?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Could we get that date again?
January 21st at 9:30. So if you're still in custody, the jail will know and you'll be appearing via video, much like you're doing here today. But if you get released, you are going to be responsible for showing up or they can issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yeah, now I understand.
All right. You're all done for today.
We needed some help.
Good morning. Tell me your name.
Raúl Ariano.
Mr. Ariano, you are here today on a felony charge of possession of narcotics. We also have a Tucson City Court case that we need to talk about. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. It looks like, Mr. Ariano, you may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment court program, kind of like a diversion program. If you agree to participate in substance abuse treatment and stay in contact with pretrial services, which is an agency of the court, and you successfully complete all the program requirements, then the state would not go forward with this felony charge against you if you qualify for the program. Is that something that you're interested in doing?
Yes.
Okay. What we're going to do based on that, and it looks like the state is recommending, Mr. Poston, you had a $5,000 bond. I'm inclined to release him to pretrial based on his potential eligibility for substance abuse treatment court.
State understands what we're looking at is at 5-4, which is the source of the $5,000 recommendation, but as always, court's discretion.
So, Mr. Ariano, I'm going to release you to pretrial services today. You are going to be required to stay in contact with that agency. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or drugs, and you can't have any firearms while the case is going on. We're going to set a hearing for you next week, December 18th at 9 o'clock in the morning. That is going to be in Pima County Superior Court on the 3rd floor in front of Judge Hampson. That's going to be your date for the substance abuse treatment court. If you're eligible to participate, you're going to meet with your attorney in the courtroom. You'll meet with pretrial services in the courtroom, and you'll also have a chance to meet with treatment providers from our Keeper Services right there in the courtroom so that you can get started. You do need to make sure you show up for that December 18th court date. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Are we willing to wait? Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going through a bunch of surgeries right now, and I'm on the pain management with the oxycodones, which I have not had no problem with them. I've been doing it for like a year already with them. Is that gonna mess up my thing? It's prescribed and it's pain management for my knees.
I'm gonna let you work with your attorney. So I don't know what that's going to do for the program because it is a drug-free program, but obviously if you're being prescribed the medications, that'll be something that you know, your defense attorney and the state will have to work out as to how they're going to manage that. So I can't answer that question for you, but again, show up at that court date on December 18th and you'll be able to have a conversation with someone from the public defender's office who will be representing you. Okay.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Mr. Hill, are we willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing?
Yes.
All right. So what I just asked your attorney, Mr. Ariano, is normally the state has 20 days to indict you on these felony charges. But because they're giving you an opportunity to participate in the diversion program, we're going to extend that time out to 45 days. So if for some reason you don't qualify for the program or it doesn't work out, your next hearing date is going to be January 27th, 2025 at 1:30. That's going to be a preliminary hearing. That date may or may not occur, but you're going to be responsible for showing up at any future court dates in this case. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The December 18th date is super important, so make sure you go. All right, we need to talk about your city court case now before you leave. Looks like you have a warrant for driving on a suspended license and having liquor in the vehicle. I am going to release you on your promise to appear in that case. Your next hearing in Tucson City Court is going to be January 21st at 9:30 in the morning. That's going to be in front of Judge Mayhew at Tucson City Court. Do not drive without a valid license. Do you understand, Mr. Ariano?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you're all done for today.
Okay, thank you. I never.
John? Yeah. Your Honor, may I just have a brief minute, here?
Morning, Your Honor.
Morning, sure, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Honor. We're ready.
Tell me your name.
Brian Bell?
Your middle name, James?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You are here today, looks like on a warrant out of Pima County Superior Court for 2 counts involving aggravated domestic violence. You are also on probation. Jail, are you showing any holds at this time?
No, Your Honor.
All right. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services that tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of why you're here before me today. The amount of the bond on the warrant is a $50,000 amount. I don't have a recommendation from the state, Mr. Poston. Did you want to be heard on conditions?
Your Honor, given all the circumstances and the information contained in the warrant, the state agrees with the 50,000.
Mr. Hill?
Your Honor, the defendant here just informed me that he's been in rehab out in Benson. He didn't get picked up on any new charges. These were some older charges that he got picked up on. He just started a new job, and actually his old charges had gotten dismissed. And he's part of the, I'm sorry, what is it? The Freedom?
I'm part of the Invest program.
The Invest program.
Yeah, and I go to Freedom Management every Wednesday.
So it's clear.
I work and I work and clean up homeless camps from 4 o'clock in the morning until about noon every Tuesday.
So it's clear to me that defendant here is he's very invested in getting right with everything. He's working to do better, and
I'm in good standing with my probation.
And he's in great standing with his probation officer. He checks in all the time. He's never missed any dates on that. So we're going to ask that he be released to pretrial services.
So it looks like according to pretrial services, there was a probation violation on August 22nd of this year. Mr. Bell was continued on probation, obviously, which is why he's before us today. The offense dates for these charges are June and July of 2024. And it looks like the warrant was issued for failing to appear at an arraignment.
I was in custody until September 24th, and then I got out and I got released to the Invest program, and they drove me in the CBI car to Benson, Arizona, where I did a 38-day rehab program, and I graduated.
Okay.
I'm clean and sober. I'm in good standing with my probation officer. I didn't come in with no new charges, and before I got released to the Invest program, I was informed that my charges were dismissed, that they were misdemeanors, and I was informed that they were dismissed. And
Your Honor, it looks like it was a grand jury indictment. It was never summoned for this dates mentioned.
Well, he would have been at some point. I think the question is whether or not he got notice. So, all right, Mr. Bell, based on everything that I've just heard, I'm going to release you to pretrial services on these charges. You need to contact your probation officer and let them know what's going on. And then you're going to have to show up at your arraignment date that I'm going to give you. And then make sure you talk with your attorney, because it doesn't look like, obviously, the charges were not dismissed, which is why you're here today. So when you get released later today, contact your probation officer, right? So they know what's going on. Don't commit any acts of domestic violence. I am not, and right now, don't have any contact with the victim. Don't go near her residence or workplace. Got it? Do you understand all those conditions of release?
The police said that the victim was, her last name was Bass from one of the days. I'm my wife, like we're still together. Like, I just talked to her last night, was hanging out with her. Like, we're on good terms.
Okay, so she is the victim in this case. That's at least who I have. And I do note that pretrial indicates that you guys are on good terms and she wants to have contact. So I will take away the not having contact with her order at this time, given where you are. Does your probation officer know that the two of you are having contact and residing together?
On the 8th.
Okay, all right. Then I will remove those conditions. So just the only condition I'll have is contact your probation officer and don't commit any acts of domestic violence, okay? All right, your next hearing is going to be your arraignment. That's next week, December 18th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Because you'll be out of custody, you're going to have to go to the 8th floor of Pima County Superior Court on that date. Make sure you get there a little bit early so that you can be seen on this case, and someone from the public defender's office will be there with you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're all done for today, Mr. Bell.
Thank you.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Oscar Rene Cano,
And
CANO.
Kano Ibata. Do you go by Ibata?
Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
Right. Sir, you are here today on a charge of possession of a narcotic drug. That's a felony offense. We also need to talk about a justice court matter. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this case, going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on your case. They tell me that you may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment court based on the nature of the charges. What that means, sir, is if the state agrees that you qualify for that program and you agree to participate in substance abuse treatment and stay in contact with pretrial services, complete all the program requirements, and they won't go forward with these felony charges. Does that sound like something that you would be interested in participating in?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Mr. Poston, I see that the state's recommending a $5,000 bond. Given his willingness to participate, I'm inclined to release him to pretrial. Did you want to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Hill, anything from you?
No.
Right. So we're going to release you to pretrial services today. Your next court hearing is going to be December 18th at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's going to be at Pima County Superior Court on the 3rd floor with Judge Hampson. Your attorney will be there, pretrial services will be there, and treatment providers are also in the courtroom so that you can get signed up for services on the spot if you qualify. So it's a really important date for you to make sure you appear. All right?
Okay.
Your additional conditions: don't possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Mr. Hill, are we willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Cano, normally the state would have 20 days to indict you on these felony charges, but because you're being given the opportunity to participate in a diversion program, we're going to extend that time out for the state to 45 days. So if for some reason you don't show up for that December 18th hearing, you don't qualify, your next hearing on this charge will be January 27th at 1:30. That's going to be a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, so it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney because you're responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand all of that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now let's talk about your justice court matter. That does involve driving on a suspended license and also an open container in the vehicle. I am going to release you on your promise to appear on that case. You're not to drive without a valid license. Don't possess any alcohol or illegal drugs. Your next court date in the justice court matter is going to be January 10th at 8:30 in the morning. You will need to appear at that date and time at Pima County Justice Court, and if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're all done for today.
Thank you. Those are gonna be United States or office. So just wait. Get released today. Just. Thank you.
All the way out, so go ahead.
Morning, tell me your full name.
L'Oreal Cox.
We're here today on a charge of theft with firearms. It's a class 6 felony. You do have the right to remain silent against you. You do have a right to an attorney on this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services, which tells me a little bit about you, your history. I know you don't have any kind of criminal history, and a little bit about the circumstances of the offense. I've also had a chance to review information provided by the state. We're all talking about the conditions of release for you here today. They are recommending I release you to pretrial services. Counsel the court's at releasing her on her own recognizance. Does anyone want to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
So Ms. Cox, basically what that means is I am releasing you today, and you need to not have any contact with the person that owns the firearms. So that person is the victim in this case, and you're not going to be able to go back to that incident location, which is where the trailer was. So do you have some Do you have someplace else you can live, reside? You can't go back there. Do you understand? Okay.
I can work on it.
Okay. So do you need to return back to that location to get any of your belongings?
Well, sure, is that correct?
Yeah, so what I'll do is check a box that says you can return with a police escort to pick up your belongings, because you're otherwise not going to be allowed to return to the incident location. But because I'm releasing you on your own recognizance, you just need to make sure you're abiding by those conditions that I provided you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Your next court date in this matter is going to be December 31st at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not happen, but you are responsible for appearing for all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And since you're going to be out of custody, make sure you stay in contact with your attorney so they can let you know if that date changes. All right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You'll be released later today. You're all done.
Thank you.
Is English your next date and on this number?
I appreciate it.
Mr. Parrish,
Hi, tell me your full name.
My name is David Jason Parrish.
Mr. Parrish, you are here today on charges of aggravated assault, serious physical injury, aggravated assault, deadly weapon, dangerous instrument, and an aggravated assault while bound class 6 felony. These are all felony offenses. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on your case. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They're asking for a $25,000 bond. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
Your Honor, this is the bare minimum the state would consider adequate given the circumstances.
I am inclined to impose that bond. Mr. Hill, did you want to be heard further?
Yes, Your Honor. Looking at the interim complaint, the injuries just don't seem consistent with serious physical injury. Maybe more consistent with temporary but substantial disfigurement. I see a broken nose and some injuries to the chest and arms. That at least to me does not seem like a serious physical injury. Other than that, we would ask for, or Mr. Parrish doesn't seem to have any priors. So we're gonna ask for a nominal bond of this matter.
All right. And at this time, there's probable cause for the charges that specifically the ag assault, deadly weapon, dangerous instrument. I do understand what you're saying about the serious physical injury and the nature of the offenses that are being reported at this time. But since there is PC on the other charges, release is not necessary. And that's the only thing the court can consider is whether or not release is appropriate if there's no probable cause. So at this time, Mr. Parrish, I'm going to hold you on a bond of $25,000. That's going to be a cash or secured bond. If you're able to post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you get released to pretrial, you're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you're not allowed to have any firearms or weapons. You are not allowed to have any contact with the victim in this case. Do not go to the incident location anywhere near where the victim is living, residing, or working. Do you understand all of those conditions?
I'm a little bit confused, Your Honor.
Okay, what are you confused about?
So I'm staying in jail on a $25,000 bond?
Yes, unless you can post that bond. It's cash or secured. So if you...
And how? Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
How long am I in jail for, Your Honor?
Until you can post that bond, or until something else happens with the charges, or you talk with their attorney and they file a motion asking to review conditions.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Your next court date in this matter is going to be December 23rd at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're going to be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. If you're in custody, the jail will make sure you get transported for your next hearings. But if you bond out and you get released, you must stay in contact with your attorney to make sure you know whether or not there are any changes. Do you understand that, Mr. Parrish?
Yes,
You
I do, ma'am.
You understand that if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Someone from the public defender's office will be out to talk with you, or they'll talk with you on Teams sometime, I would guess, within the next day or two. So you'll have an opportunity to talk with them more about how this case is going to progress. In the meantime, you'll be in good hands at the jail. All right. You're all done, Mr. Parrish.
Am I able to ask any questions, or is now the inappropriate time, Your Honor?
You're going to want to talk to your attorney because today is just about setting those conditions of release. So your attorney is going to be the best person for you to talk to. Okay. And they'll be in touch with you. It's the same office. So Mr. Hill, and I think he has the supervisor with him as well. They're both there today and they'll make sure that someone gets out to talk to you soon. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're all done. Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Francisco Jose Sigala.
What's your middle name?
Jose.
You are here today on charges of aggravated assault, deadly weapon, dangerous instrument, tampering with physical evidence, and discharging a firearm in city limits. These are all felony offenses. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. Tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances. I've also had a chance to review information provided by the state as to their recommendation on your conditions of release. They're asking for a $100,000 bond. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
Yes, Your Honor. As it says in the state's recommendation, this person is alleged to have filed an AR style rifle at people he did not know multiple times, then fled trespassing onto another's property. And then when the property owner refused to allow him to hide himself and or the rifle, he decided to go ahead and stash the rifle nonetheless and then flee. Subsequently, the defendant outed himself online with photos of himself wearing distinctive clothing, tattoos, and handling the rifle. Post Miranda, he admitted to shooting and fleeing. This person fired at people he did not know, putting innocent lives at risk, $100,000.
And sir, I do need to tell you, your mom and sister are here in the courtroom today as well. So I know you can't see them, but they are here. Mr. Hill, did you want to be heard?
Yeah, I'm just going to point out that I don't see any priors for this individual, so we're going to ask for him.
I am going to impose a bond today of $50,000. That's going to be a cash or secured bond. If that bond gets posted, then you're going to be released to pretrial services. You're going to be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You cannot have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you are not allowed to have any guns. No firearms, no weapons. You're not allowed to have any contact with the victims in this case and do not return to the incident location. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your next hearing in this case is going to be December 23rd at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you miss them, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. If you're in custody, the jail will make sure to transport you to your next hearings, or you'll appear via video, much like you're doing here today. But if you get released, you must stay in contact with your attorney in the event court dates change. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, your family is here and they've heard the conditions of release imposed by the court. You're all done for today.
He's interesting states and
Mr. Smith.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Elmer Glenn Smith.
Mr. Smith, you are here today on charges of theft of means of transportation, third-degree burglary, and possession of burglary tools. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I'm appointing the Public Defender's Office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of the offense. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. That's what we're here to talk about today. The state's recommending a $5,000 bond. The court's at releasing to pretrial services. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard?
Your Honor.
Mr. Hill?
Sorry, Your Honor, you said the court is considering release to pretrial services?
That's what I intend to do, yes.
Then nothing, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Smith, I am going to release you to the custody of pretrial services. I have an address for you on North Lawn Adams Road. Is that still a good address for you? No?
No, Your Honor. Can I say anything right now?
Yes, please.
That would be 5650 South Park Ave, apartment 1144.
1144?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Do you know what the zip is?
85706.
All right. So we will note that change. Thank you for that. So releasing you to pretrial services means that you have to maintain contact with that agency. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms or weapons while this case is going on. You are not allowed to have any contact with the victim or return to the incident location. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes, where is pretrial located?
So when
So I
you
could,
when you get released from the jail, they'll give you some paperwork. There's also a window for pretrial services, so you can check in with them. We usually have someone from pretrial that's present on the line as well, so they're listening in and they know that you're going to be released to their agency. So make sure that they have contact information for you before you leave the jail, okay?
sounds good.
Your next hearing in this case is going to be December 31st at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're expected to show up at all future court dates or they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Because you're going to be out of custody, it's going to be important for you to maintain contact with your attorney as well as pretrial services in the event that that court date changes. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're all done for today, Mr. Smith.
This is our number. Your next court date. Thank you.
White Cell?
Hi, tell me your full name.
Christopher Allen Whitesell.
Mr. Whitesell, you were here on a few different matters. One of them is a fugitive probation violation warrant. And then it looks like you also have matters out of Justice Court and one out of City Court that we're going to be talking about here today. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on the fugitive matter. I'm going to appoint the Legal Defender's Office to represent you. There's not a bond amount on the we. Looks like it's out of Florida. Trying to find your booking sheet. Hang on.
No problem.
So it looks like I have an address for you on South 6th Avenue here in Tucson. Is that a good address for you?
Yes.
How long have you lived there?
It's just a mailing address right now. I'm currently homeless.
All right. I've had an opportunity to look through your paperwork. It doesn't look like the state is making a recommendation as to your release conditions on the warrant. Mr. Poston, did you have anything that you wanted to say on that?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Hill?
Your Honor, we're gonna seek a nominal bond.
All right. So I am going to impose a bond in this matter of $1,000 on your fugitive matter. That's going to be a cash or secured bond. The information I have, Mr. Whitesell, is that in September and October of this year, it looks like probation, you changed your residence and didn't tell them where you were going. So that's the probation violation. Obviously, you're here in Arizona, not in Florida. So there's going to be a hearing on the fugitive matter to talk about whether or not the bond amount will change or if you're going to be extradited back to Florida to deal with this or what's going to happen. That's going to be December 16th at 2:30 in the afternoon. And that'll be, the legal defender's office will be representing you at that hearing. If you are in custody and can't post the bond, then the jail will make sure to transport you to court for that hearing at that time. If you get released or you do post the $1,000 bond I've implemented today, you're going to be responsible for showing up at all future hearings. And if you fail to appear, they could issue more warrants for you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We also need to talk about your shoplifting warrant out of Pima County Justice Court. I'm going to impose a bond in that case of $250, cash or secured. I'm going to appoint Caitlin Waters as an attorney to represent you in that case. Your next hearing is going to be tomorrow, December 12th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, you'll appear via video, much like you're doing today if you can't post that bond. So it'll be $1,000 on your fugitive matter, $250 on this case. All right. On the shoplifting, do not return to wherever it is that you shoplifted. They're the victims. You can't have any contact with them. I'm going to do the same on the other matter pending in justice court, a bond of $250. I am going to run that concurrent with the other $250 warrant that I just imposed. So Ms. Waters will represent you on both cases and your hearing will be the same for both of those cases.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
And then we need to talk about your city court case as well. So that one looks like it's a criminal trespass. And then you failed to appear for your hearing in that one. I'm going to release you on that case. I'm going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you. And there's going to be a non-transport review hearing set for January 21st at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Tucson City Court in front of Judge Cranshaw. Do not go back to wherever it is that the incident occurred in the trespass. Victims are there and you can't have any contact with them. If you're still in custody, Mr. Whitesell, someone from the city PD's office will also be in contact with you along with Ms. Waters so they can discuss all of these matters with you. But if you get released, you actually have to go to city court on that date and time. Do you understand?
Yes.
You're all done for today.
Mr. Williams?
Hi, tell me your full name.
Derek Christopher Williams.
Mr. Williams, you are here today on a charge of disorderly conduct involving a deadly weapon. It's a felony offense. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's or legal defender's office to represent you. You have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. He's not going to be your attorney, but he'll be representing you as we discuss conditions of release. I've had a chance to review a recommendation from the state. It looks like they're asking for a $15,000 bond on this matter. Mr. Poston.
Your Honor, the defendant is alleged to have pulled a gun on the victim when the victim simply beeped his horn on his car, asking the defendant to stop blocking his own driveway with his car. This sort of behavior is an unnecessary risk to the community. This person has demonstrated that they are a risk to the community. 15,000.
Mr. Hill.
Your Honor, I'm seeing that for pretrial service, the defendant has no prior felony history. Lifelong resident of Tucson, and he's got full-time employment as an assistant manager. I'm going to ask that he be released to pretrial services.
So, Mr. Williams, if I release you today, you're going to have to surrender any firearms that you have, and you can't possess any while this case is going on. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I do understand.
Right. I'm going to release you to pretrial services. That means that you're going to be ordered to stay in contact with that agency, participate in any monitoring or treatment they ask you to participate in. You are not allowed to have any alcohol or drugs while this case is going on, and you may not, as I indicated, have any firearms or weapons. If you do own any, you must surrender those to the police department, and they're going to keep them for you until a judge says that it's okay for you to have them back. You can talk to your attorney from the legal defender's office about how it is that you can go about doing that if you have questions, but you must do that when you get released. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. I do have a question if that matters or not.
Hang on just a second. Let me finish running through your other conditions of release. You are not allowed to have any contact with the victims in this case. Do not go to where they live or work. Are those your neighbors?
No, it was a friend's house.
Okay. So make sure that you do not go back to that friend's house and do not have any contact with them. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Of
Okay.
course, yes, ma'am.
All right. So those are going to be all your conditions of release. What is your question?
It's probably gonna be a yes or no. For the rest of my firearms that I have, do they have to go to the police or can they go with another family member?
I'm ordering that you surrender them to the police department. You can talk with your
Yes.
attorney about that, but that's my order.
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your next hearing date is going to be December 31st at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Because you're going to be out of custody, it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that that court date changes. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're all done for today.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you.
Sir, our number next day.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Alexander Charles Wojak.
Mr. Wojak, you are here today on charges of aggravated assault, criminal damage, and disorderly conduct. These are all domestic violence offenses. These are felonies. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. The victim in this matter is on the line. Ma'am, can you hear me? You may need to hit *6 if you want to be heard. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Your Honor?
I can, yes. Is this Allison? Allison? Okay, all right. So, Mr. Wojak, I've had an opportunity to review information by pretrial services that tells me a little bit about the circumstances of the offense and information about you. It also looks like, Allison, you had the opportunity to talk with pretrial services as well. Did you get a chance to do that?
Yes.
Okay. And I see that you are saying that you're fine with him returning to the residence and having contact with him. Is that your position?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have anything else that you want the court to know with respect to conditions of release?
Just that, we're on good terms, and I think that this was just an isolated incident and a bad night. So I know he has to get back to work, so we're hoping he can get released and come home.
So, ma'am, I want you to understand that as the victim, you obviously have right to have input, and I'm listening to what you're telling me with respect to this case and what it is that you want. And ultimately, you understand it's the court's decision to impose conditions of release here today, right?
Yes, of course, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Wojak, we also have to talk about DUI case out of justice court as well before I forget, but we're going to take care of this felony first. I do see that the state is asking for a $50,000 bond. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further? And I don't know, Mr. Poston, I didn't see a risk assessment on this particular case either. I don't know if you had one.
I did not see a 4 and 4C either, Your Honor.
Okay.
But I did see statements regarding strangulation and DV strangulation in the presence of 2 other minors, and the state is very, very concerned that this sort of behavior will escalate. The court is well aware of the statistics regarding escalation of DV after there have been incidents involving choking.
Mr. Hill.
Your Honor, given the victim's statements on wanting to allow Mr. Wojak back home, given his 10-year residence in Tucson, Arizona, and his full-time employment as program manager for PTS's workup, I would ask that he either be released to pretrial or held on a nominal bond.
Mr. Wojak, I am going to hold you on a bond today. I'm going to hold you on a $20,000 cash or secured bond. You're able to post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. You'll be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess any alcohol or illegal drugs. Do not drive without a valid license. You're also not allowed to have any firearms while this case is going on. I understand that your wife is wanting to have contact with you, but the court is not going to allow that at this time. So she may want that contact. The court has some concerns given the nature of the offenses and what occurred. So the order now is that you not have any contact with her, and you are not allowed to return home to the incident location if you post this bond. You're going to have to establish an alternate residence. Do you understand all of those conditions?
Yes.
You guys may have kids. What I am willing to do is allow you to have phone contact to discuss childcare issues, financial issues, those kinds of things, not about the circumstances of this offense, and he is not allowed to return home. Is that something that would be okay with you?
Okay, with some friends and family, why do you think
Okay. So okay. And understand that these are the orders today going forward. I don't know what will happen with this case and how it will progress. So there will clearly be others involved. Mr. Wojak, you'll have someone from the public defender's office representing you. They may file a motion to modify conditions of release, but right now you're not allowed to go home, and you can only have phone contact with Allison as it relates to, as I've indicated, affairs involving the kids, financial affairs, those kinds of things. Do you understand?
Yes.
Your next hearing date in this case is going to be December 23rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're expected to show up at all future court dates or a warrant could issue for your arrest. If you do post bond and you get released, it's going to be important that you stay in contact with your attorney so that you're aware of any court date changes. If you do not post bond, the jail will make sure to transport you for purposes of the hearing. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes.
And then we need to talk about your justice court matter as well. Given the nature of that offense, I am going to impose a nominal bond on that case, just a $100 cash or secured bond. I'm going to appoint Caitlin Waters to represent you. Your next hearing date is going to be tomorrow, December 12th at 1 o'clock at Pima County Justice Court. If you get released, you need to appear for that arraignment. If you stay in custody, you'll appear via video, much like you're doing here today. I will allow that bond to be concurrent with your felony matter. So if you're able to post the bond on one case, it will apply to both cases. You're not to drive without a valid license or possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. Do you understand, Mr. Wojak?
Yes.
All right, give me just a second. Okay, you're all done for today.
Thank you. Your next dates and how to get in touch with us. Okay. Your Honor, I have a concern about Victor Nabor. It seems like he's been in custody for more than 24 hours at this point. I'd like to object to that.
Well, he is the reason that he's been in custody for that long, Mr. Hill, because he continues to refuse to cooperate and come down for his hearing. So he's been given the opportunity to appear and he doesn't want to. So jail, how about we do this for tonight, given the number of days? I'm going to ask you to make sure that he gets transported for the hearing this evening.
Yes, Judge.
All right. And Allison, I don't know if you're still on the phone, but we're done with that hearing. Thank you for being here and providing input today. We're all done with that hearing.
Your Honor, can I ask you a question? So you imposed a $20,000 bond, is that correct?
I did, yes.
So when would he be able to be released so that
that's
we're not able to post the
So that's a cash or secured bond. So it's 10% plus collateral that you would have to post. And if he's able to post that bond, then he can be released. And that can be done as soon as today if you're able to post that bond. If you're not, he'll remain in custody. And then very likely his attorney will be in contact with him and they'll discuss what they want to do with respect to going forward if this case gets charged.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Judge. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Judge Miller. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Kingston.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
You know that Tucson, my friend so dear. We gather today, it's crystal clear. 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 We gat we gather today, it's crystal clear. From the streets of Congress to Mount Lemon's Peak, united we stand strong and sleek. Old Pueblo's pride, under the desert sun. From the barrios to the ranches, we are one. We walk hand in hand through the cactus and sand. Together we rise tall and grand. Tucson is home, where hearts collide. In this vast country, where dreams reside. We lift our voices, let our spirits roam. In this melting pot, Tucson is home.